Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Cutie Art Crusaders for December 18th, 2012. We are more than halfway through the last month of the year, and I cannot believe it's December already.
Yeah.
It's been crazy how fast this has gone. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and editor of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn to One. I am the special guest coordinator of the podcast.
And that's literally it.
Yeah.
That is literally it.
With the exception of a special guest, but we'll get to that in a moment.
We'll get to that in a moment. This week, we've got a couple of our guys away. Flutter Guy and Pinky Dash, unfortunately, could not make it at the last minute. So we're stuck with just me and Bernd, which is okay, because I feel like, Bernd, you and I ramble quite a bit.
Yeah, and also, luckily this week, our special guest is also apparently pretty good at rambling, so I've heard.
Yes.
So that's also fortunate for us, since we're down two of our members.
We'll have to fill in the time here, but if people don't enjoy rambling, well, first of all, they wouldn't watch our show.
Yeah.
But second of all, this episode might not be for you. But let's not beat around the bush here. Who do we have this week, Bernd?
All right. This week, our special guest is another awesome special guest who I'm excited to have on our show. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Everfree Northwest, and this week, our special guest is Garrett Gilchrist, or Tygerbug on his DeviantArt, if you know him as that with a Y. And go ahead and say hi, Garrett.
Oh, yes. Good. Very good to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Bernd.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure.
It was nice meeting you all. Seeing the Everfree team again.
Oh, yeah, no. It was cool to be able to actually, meet and chat with you, or, an actual artist for, an extended period of time, throughout the entire convention.
Wasn't that a great con? This was Everfree Northwest in Seattle. Wasn't that a great convention?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I had the time of my life, definitely.
I'm super jealous of the fact that Bernd got to go to that, because none of the rest of us got to go to that con. And basically, from what I've heard and from what we've gotten from it in terms of this show, with the special guests and the opportunities that we've gotten, it was just fantastic.
There was the con crud. I gotta say, a lot of us got sick. I got sick, but as far as the actual con itself, which they've got nothing to do with if somebody sneezes on you or whatever, but that always happens at cons. You always get a little sick, but that was a terrific con.
It's a funny standard, isn't it? Getting sick at cons. It happens every single con. I'm a regular to a con in Boston called PAX East.
Right.
And that's just you're guaranteed. It's absolutely guaranteed. You can't cram that many people in a small space for 3 days and not expect everyone to get what we called PAX flu.
It's part of the fun, really. Virulent
the con stays with you even after it's over.
I hear you.
In the form of some sort of virus.
Lingering memories.
At least afterward. No, it was just rare in that the sickness hit me during, I think. But BronyCon, I don't think I got sick during that. Maybe after, though.
Well, then you were the person who was passing it on.
Oh, clearly. I see how.
You were the infector.
Oh, I started the fire, too. I got to admit it. But it was always burning since the world's been
okay. Yeah. Oh, what a bad reference. So, you met Bernd at Everfree Northwest, and that's where you kind of got the conversation started. And I guess just months down the road, here we are sitting down for an interview. I asked this of everyone that we have on the show, and it's become sort of an infamous question because nobody really knows how to answer it. But I'm hoping you, who's someone who is known to be able to improvise and carry a conversation quite well, could answer this. So for people who don't know who you are, Garrett Gilchrist, a.k.a. Tygerbug, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm an artist, filmmaker. I'm a writer, and I'm also a performer. And I've been doing that since the late 90s, I suppose. But
that right there is the most precise answer we've ever gotten.
Indeed. Well,
no, by all means, continue.
I've done a lot of My Little Pony art, which you might have seen. There's a Twilighticious T-shirt which I drew, which can be bought at Wheel of Fine. It won Tara Strong's Judge's Pick And actually, on Twitter, I've been helping Tara Strong with her charity work to help the cancer patient, Kiki. Yeah. So they auction off my stuff signed like all the time, and you should
Very cool.
pick some up and help her out. But I started out in My Little Pony doing coloring books. I did a couple of coloring books of the characters, which went viral, and that was basically traced from the show, but not from really low quality material. So I really had to learn how to draw the details. And it was very good practice for learning the style and getting me comfortable enough to draw my own stuff. And what I draw is very show accurate, and I then work with a lot of vector artists to make it really nice. Especially there's a fellow in Germany called Dentist 73458 who does all my best stuff. He did the Sandman ponies, Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, and he did Daring Do. But I've been working as an artist for a while. A few years ago, I was doing a project to animate lost episodes of Doctor Who, and I created a huge library over about 2.5 years, a huge library of artwork, animated artwork for the lost episodes of Doctor Who, because I'm a big fan, especially of the 60s and 70s stuff, which is still available. If there are any, if you're animating My Little Pony in Flash, you might want to grab some of my artwork and try to animate some Doctor Who in Flash, because that artwork still exists, and there's a fella called Adam Bullock who animated a full episode with it, and I animated a full episode's worth of stuff with it. So that artwork's out there. It exists. But as far as My Little Pony, I've gone to, 3 Brony cons, and I did the artist panel at 2 of them. I was up on stage with, the usual bunch, I guess, Pixel Kitties, John Ozako. We had Chibi Jenhen, we had Citra.
I really liked the artist panel you did where you were the one asking the questions.
Yeah, well, was that ever? I don't think that was ever released. I keep asking.
Oh no, I definitely saw it.
Is that up? Is that?
I
up
don't
then?
think it was like an official mirror or like an official post. I think it was someone with like a really bad camera off to the side. But I remember seeing you up there, and it was cool.
That's a shame, because I've been asking Draft if that'll ever come up, but I always thought they withheld it because I swore a little. But that was fun. That was that was the BronyCon that had the fire, so that the whole schedule for that day was really thrown off, we were more than a little bit confused, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine something like that would put off a bit of uploading and recording scheduling.
Yeah, I think Will Draw for Food was there, and Egophiliac didn't do it that time, but did it the last time. And we were supposed to have Celebi Yoshi, but she left early. But but I also, as a filmmaker, I directed a couple of very low budget feature films. I haven't done any in years now, but I did. I did some comedies back in the day, and the Ghostbusted trilogy, stuff like that. And I did a drama called God's Los Angeles, and a superhero picture called Shamelessly She-Hulk, which is half finished, and you can see that at my YouTube account, OCP Movie. And I have another YouTube account, which My Little Pony fans might know, because I do dramatic readings and stupid stuff. I've got an imitation of Orson Welles that I do, so it's always like, My Little Pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be, My Little Pony, until you all shared its magic with me.
So I think every single guest in the history and any future history that is going to watch the show should put that as a baseline for... Although, to be fair... We interview a lot of the times people who have started out as artists just before, or used My Little Pony as kind of like a springboard to learn how to become an artist and learn different styles of art. Now, you've been an artist, and you've been working not only in film, but in many different things for how many years now? You said 12, 13?
Yeah, I'd say late 90s. I directed my first feature we had a little like cable access TV show called Dr. Fred's Amazing Exploding Cow Show back in 1996, and I know I was doing. I know it was exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of high school kids trying to be Monty Python. This was way before YouTube, and I knew people like Red Letter Media and people like that way back in the day, and we'd make little comedy features with titles like The Phantom Movie, we were spoofing the Phantom Menace, and Excalibur or The Spatula and the Stone. But it was ridiculous stuff. But I went to USC Film School, which is the top film school in the country, and I spent about 10 years in Los Angeles being miserable, trying to break in as a famous filmmaker and being miserable. And I was doing art and animation the whole time. And my father was and is an artist. He did the Muppets comic strip and a lot of Looney Tunes and Tiny Toons stuff, and Nancy and Sluggo he does now. But I grew up in a very artistic household, so I've always had a wide range, I guess, of stuff that I can do and I do. As an artist,
burned.
Sorry, I can't help it.
It's going to be like Wreck-It Ralph and Hero's Duty we're going to have. But I write for a couple of magazines about the art of film editing, and I've done some film editing projects myself. I did a documentary about the editing of Star Wars, which was called Star Wars Deleted Magic. It was all about how Star Wars was fixed in the editing room, how it could have been as bad as The Phantom Menace, but back in the day, George was smart, and they really worked to release the movie they wanted rather than the movie they shot. They really worked on that film. And so I put out this little documentary called Deleted Magic, and it was kind of a viral thing on the internet. And at the time, I was at a forum which was all yelling at George Lucas to actually release the Star Wars movies on DVD, which he still hasn't properly done. But we were talking about which films somebody should restore, and I brought up The Thief and the Cobbler, which is a film like no one had heard of. I mean, none of my friends had heard of. But I said, that's a film that was ruined more than any other film, and someone really needs to do an edit of it. And it was one of those weird coincidences, which is like fate, where somebody who was on that forum, who we all knew, but he said, we had no idea. He private messaged me saying, look, I worked on that film as an assistant. I'm going to send you some DVDs, get started. So I restored this film called The Thief and the Cobbler, and it became this huge kind of cult thing, actually, on the internet. It was a film I thought I was editing a version of it. It was a film that was never finished, and I thought I was editing something for 5 people to watch, but it turned out like we had well over 500,000 people watch it on YouTube, and it became kind of a thing. It's a great film. It's a film I first heard about when I was 8. I was sleeping on Roger Rabbit bed sheets, and I read this interview with the guy who animated Roger Rabbit. Richard Williams, who has won 3 Oscars. He did this. Okay, it's Christmas now, so you should watch Richard Williams' A Christmas Carol. It's scary and it's amazing, and it's some of the best animation you're ever going to see. And he also he won an Oscar for that, and he won 2 for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But this is a guy who started animating in 1958 and who had a kind of burning urge to become the greatest animator who ever lived, basically. And this was, in the 60s and 70s, the art of animation was really dying out, and people were forgetting how to do it. All the old 40s and 50s animators were getting old and kind of dying off, and even Disney was cutting corners, and there was kind of this fear that the younger generation of animators would only know how to animate Hanna-Barbera and stuff like that. And I bring this up because this is the situation we face today with CGI. People are forgetting how to actually animate properly. So what Dick Williams did was he tried to hire Milt Kahl, but he hired Art Babbitt, he hired Ken Harris especially, all these the original great Disney and Warner Brothers animators. And they came to work for him, but they also taught the new generation, people like Eric Goldberg, who did the genie in Aladdin, Andreas Deja, who did Jafar in Aladdin. And this new generation of animators, the old fellows came in and actually taught them how to animate. But Dick was doing this more for himself, because Dick was his mother was a great painter, and he was a great kind of artist, but he wasn't that great an animator necessarily. He was able to draw really beautiful stuff, but he really wanted to learn how to make it move well, basically. He had this real urge within him to become this great animator, and it took him many years. But the whole time he was picking away at a movie called The Thief and the Cobbler, which he thought would be his masterpiece. He actually started it in the 60s, and he kept on working on it, putting millions of dollars of his own money into this one movie, which he was obsessed with, and he kept animating and reanimating, and he was doing all sorts of crazy photographic effects and trying to make the most beautiful thing he could. And he basically did some of the most complex animation ever attempted in an independent feature, and probably in any animated feature ever. And if you look at the film, it's a very, it looks like Yellow Submarine. It looks like simple 60s design, but it moves really well, like better than any film you're going to see, and it's dreamlike. He always said the whole thing is in the language of a dream, and it's not Disney, it's not, Shrek, it's not this pop culture kind of crap. It's an art film. It's a kind of film that needs to be hung up on a wall in a museum. But the tragedy of the film is that he spent 23 years on this, which is longer than anybody ever spent on anything, because he never got the budget for it. But then Roger Rabbit came out. And you got to realize, people forget, Roger Rabbit was the first hit Disney had had in ages. And right after that, it was Roger Rabbit and it was Mermaid. And it was this 1-2 punch that brought Disney back, that brought animation back, that made Disney relevant again. And a lot of that would not have been possible if Dick Williams hadn't put in the work, making sure that people knew how to animate back in the day. He deserves a bit of credit for that, and for Roger Rabbit being this big hit. That and Mermaid really brought animation back, and he hated working on Roger Rabbit to a certain extent, because all he wanted to do was Thief and the Cobbler. The guy was obsessed. And so Roger Rabbit had been such a success that Warner Brothers, who were always terrible at feature animation, they screwed up Quest for Camelot. They didn't promote Iron Giant or Cats Don't Dance. They didn't make it.
I love Cats Don't Dance.
I know, and Lauren Faust worked on that. She did Sawyer.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until it became a brony.
She worked on Quest for Camelot too, and if you ever talk to her about it, good Lord, she's not. No one's happy. Anyway, Warner's finally, because Roger Rabbit had been such a big hit, they said, "Okay, Dick, we're going to put up the money, and you can make your film." And at that point, maybe he had a lot of it animated, but not a lot of it finished in color, because that's more expensive. And so they worked on it, but Warner Brothers started to get cold feet. They felt it was an art film, it wasn't commercial, and Disney was making Aladdin, which is kind of a ripoff of The Thief and the Cobbler in a lot of ways. If you ever watch both films, you'll be like, oh yeah, they stole all the characters and the kind of look of it and just made it more... and a lot of the story, and they just made it more pop culture-y and more Disney-like. And Aladdin's a great picture.
Disney likes a good word.
Yeah, but they made Aladdin. Aladdin's a great picture, but it's the opposite of Thief and the Cobbler in terms of tone. Aladdin's not an art film so much. It's pop culture-y. It's accessible. So Warner Brothers felt that, Disney's already beaten us to it now. Warner's had him screen the film, and none of the executives apparently liked it. They watched some of the most amazing animation ever attempted on screen. Like these scenes that today would be CGI, because you're like an entire city will turn around. You'll be moving through an entire city, and every building and every nook and cranny is drawn, and you're moving over the mountains, and you're moving over this entire landscape. And there's this war machine at the end, which is the most complicated thing anyone has ever animated. There's thousands of soldiers and millions of moving parts, and it's just all the most nasty weaponry you can think of is all in this thing. And it's just all this incredible animation, but Warner Brothers just didn't say a damn thing. They didn't say a word, and they walked out, and they fired Dick.
And what people have to realize about this kind of animation is that, years ago, there was none of the digital aspects of this. It was all hand done, and to be able to do things. I mean, you're talking about the best animation, and people will say, well, what about these current films? And the fact of the matter is the current films aren't using the same means as he was using back in those days.
I don't get it. I've never liked CGI. I mean, I can enjoy a film. I liked Tangled, and I liked Wreck-It Ralph, and I liked a lot of what Pixar did. But these films aren't at the same level, in my estimation, as Pinocchio, Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. I mean, hand-drawn animation it's absolutely ridiculous that it's out of style at the moment. And that this is what people are growing up to because, CGI, it's its own thing. And it's a perfectly valid thing, and it takes a lot of skill to do. But a lot of these films are obnoxious. You watch The Lorax or Despicable Me, these films are obnoxious. And they're pop culture-y, and they... it's a means to tell the film, but why aren't there any films being made out there on a big scale which are hand drawn and are being released on a big scale? Because there's a CGI film cannot achieve a lot of things that a hand-drawn film can. And I think The Thief and the Cobbler, like any really great animated film, is a great example of that. Now, the problem with The Thief and the Cobbler is they never finished it. They fired Dick Williams, and, he had spent millions of dollars of his own money over 23 years trying to make this film, and it was his film. This film was Dick Williams, and as they were firing him and everyone was running out of the building, grabbing what they could or whatever, he was still at his desk animating a scene. The film had become his reason for living, and they threw him off it. And Warner Brothers cut their losses and just handed it to an old Saturday morning producer who just did everything on the cheap. He had done this really about the worst animation you'll ever see. Like this thing about Gary Coleman as an angel was like the kind of level he was doing where nothing even moves. And he finished the film, quote unquote, really quickly and cheaply. He cut out a lot of the good stuff and made it crappy. Then Disney bought it, and they made it worse because they wanted to release it as a bad ripoff of Aladdin. They didn't want to admit that they'd kind of ripped it off. They wanted to release it as a bad ripoff of Aladdin, so then they cut out some stuff more. So this film really got ruined to a level that no film ever has before. But if you actually watch the Dick Williams's version, his unfinished version, it's this really beautiful, dreamlike art film, which haunted me. It haunted me for years. It's just not like anything else. And so I took the available versions, the really bad versions, which have nothing to do with what Dick intended, but have a lot of the same footage at least. I took that stuff and I kind of just cut it together as best I could, just because I wanted to have a version of this film I could show people. Even if it was only going to be 5 people, I wanted to be able to show people this film, just to show I wasn't crazy and that this film existed. We found some actual film, and we found a lot of rare footage and shots we didn't have before, and I've gone in and animated stuff myself or fixed stuff myself, not like full-line animation, but fixed stuff, and cleaned up thousands of frames and done some of the it's the most complicated fan edit ever. And it's been called the best fan edit ever by a couple places, but it became sort of a cult thing that about more than 500,000 people watched on YouTube. But it was The Thief and the Cobbler Recobbled Cut Mark III, which is on YouTube at The Thief Archive. And right now I've been doing The Thief and the Cobbler Mark IV, because that was back in 2008. And now, this many years later, we found some much better stuff. And I'm working on it much harder than before, and really cleaning up every frame by hand to try and make a more watchable and accurate version of easily the greatest lost animated film of all time.
So that's your current project, working on that film, which sounds fantastic, and it sounds like something that a lot of people should be interested in, especially just because it's a kind of a glimpse into a past that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, and I'm glad I live stream editing on Saturdays, and we've got or Fridays actually. I've started to do artwork on Saturdays. Ponies mostly, pony artwork. And I'm doing a lot of art these days and a lot of ponies, and there's a lot of commissions I need to catch up on. Um, yeah, I actually do live stream editing on Fridays usually, and people come along and hang out and watch me work. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, as someone who is quite experienced, coming from the outside, not only in film but art and many different things like that. A lot of the people that we've interviewed on the show, and a lot of people who watch the show, and in general, it seems to be a theme that the show My Little Pony has brought out this artistic side in people, and so I'd kind of like to talk to you a little bit about your side to it, because it's not so much that the show brought it out of you, but it's kind of just you're channeling your artistic ability into this show. So I'd like to see your perspective, not only on the show, but also your take on making fan art of the show.
Yeah, well, it helped for me that I'd actually been around the block a little in terms of being a filmmaker, weirdly enough, because I was at a British comedy forum dedicated to Chris Morris, who did Brass Eye and Jam and The Day to Day and Four Lions, really great British comedian. And someone there had posted a link saying, "Oh, look, Lauren Faust has done a version of My Little Pony." And I thought, well, Lauren Faust, I wasn't a fan of the Powerpuff Girls. I think the animation was too simplistic and ... or stuff like that. But I recognized her name as someone who did interesting stuff and had a little bit of integrity. So I watched a little bit of that pilot. I think I watched, the first episode and a half, I'd say. I must have stopped around the time Stephen Magnet, and I said, this is really valid. This is really interesting. She's taken this property and done something genuine with it. But as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter, I've written 14 screenplays and a couple of novels, and I write for a couple of film editing magazines. Actually, if I can plug, this being Christmas, I have a novel called Cratchit and Company, which is about Bob Cratchit from A Christmas Carol, and it's the ghosts of Christmas visit him because they've given up on Scrooge. It's 99 cents on Amazon. But anyway, as a struggling screenwriter, I thought this was about the best structured script I'd seen in a while. I think the same about Wreck-It Ralph, actually. That's just amazing screenwriting structure, traditional screenwriting structure. But the thing about My Little Pony is Twilight's flaw. Twilight is flawed. She doesn't want to make friends. She won't socialize, and that's her big flaw. And she's mean to people in that first episode. We like her. And it's a way that gets us into this, because if we're not interested in dumb little, girly ponies, neither is Twilight, and that's genius. That's really what hooked a lot of people. But she needs to overcome that flaw in order to save the kingdom. So her internal flaw of not wanting to make friends, not wanting to socialize, she needs to overcome that in order to save the kingdom, and that is brilliant screenwriting structure. That is, perfect screenwriting structure 101. But what got me, actually, because I just watched the pilot, most of it, and I didn't continue after that, but then I read an interview with her about, non-homophobic, my little ... because someone had accused it of being racist or anti whatever.
My non-racist, whatever, and it just bashed the show
Terrible.
For all these digging for things in the show.
Ridiculous. Oh, these black ponies are.
Yeah, it was the opening scene with Celestia sitting on her throne, and they had grayish black pony guards. So it's the white supremacist pony on the throne with the black guards, and it's like, what? Like, that's digging way too deep.
These people are sick. It's really like back in the 50s when people would be looking for the most twisted stuff in otherwise innocent Batman comics. It's like, this says a lot more about you than it says about Lauren Faust.
Yeah.
But her response was amazing, and it really showed that she wanted to create good role models for girls, and for once, do a female-driven show that wasn't boring. To say that, a show can be about girls and be about girly things and not be inferior. And that spoke so much to me, and at some point I just marathoned that whole season. It must have been around the time.
That's pretty much word for word kind of how my experience went. I mean, that's how it went down. As I heard about it, I was like, what is this show? What is this thing? And then it led to those series of drama posts and responses, and I was like, this sounds really interesting. Ended up watching it and getting really hooked.
Well, it fills your brain with pony when you watch that much.
That's pretty much the definition.
That's for sure. I think that's a great term to use because it's become a common theme nowadays.
Yep, I mean, that's the theme with us. That's the theme with Pixel Kitties.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I love Pixel Kitties. I think that's true of Homestuck too a little bit. Where now I was into Homestuck from the beginning, but people marathon it and really get into it.
I'm gonna have to marathon it one of these days.
Yeah, Doctor Who too, actually, because I used to. I didn't get into Doctor Who until Christopher Eccleston came on, but I then marathoned all the old stuff, not in order, because I don't think you should watch Doctor Who in order, but yeah, all the old stuff and the 60s and 70s stuff especially. But it gets to you, and it's a specific kind of feeling because My Little Pony, I think, is so successful because it's different, and it's not something that it's not human. It's a different mindset, and it makes you feel a certain different way, and it provides an escape for people. And I think Homestuck didn't get popular till the Trolls, and that's something else that's they're not quite human, and so they're very memeable, I suppose. The internet loves something that isn't human, isn't something we've seen before, isn't like your basic kind of stereotype kind of stuff.
It's something that fits in between a lot of different categories.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of hit at a good time, and does provide good female characters. I felt that the characters were very balanced, very different. It felt like a well thought out sitcom, something like Community, or Cheers, where the characters bounce off one another.
And everyone provides comic relief. Some other cartoons out there have one character specifically for comic relief and one character specifically for this or that or whatever. And I feel like the characters in the show provide their own little piece of everything.
Yeah.
Depending on the episode, depending on the situation.
But conflict is character. And if the conflict arises from how different these characters are and how... when Dan Harmon created Community, and he was fired from that too, because of Chevy Chase and because of his own prickly personality, but he wanted the characters to be different enough where you feel that they're a family, but you also feel that if you ever put two of them together, you wouldn't think, they're just hanging out together, probably doing something boring. You'd think, why are those two together? What are they up to? Because some personality trait, they love each other, but they're going to piss each other off, and shenanigans are going to happen. Now, My Little Pony is that. And that's sitcom. That is perfect, character creation. Because, just think about it. Put Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash together. Put Twilight Sparkle and Rarity together. Put Rarity and Applejack together. Plot lines immediately happen in your head just because of who these characters are. The conflict is character, and that's a hell of a thing. And they love each other, but they're going to piss each other off, and that's good sitcom. That's just good writing. And so I always draw. I was doing a webcomic called The Chosen Ones, which I created back in 2005. I wanted to create an animated series, which I never quite got to sell. But I wrote like 2.5 screenplays worth of this animated series about a bunch of 20-something kids who take on an alien invasion. And it was very Buffy-like, and it had comedy and drama, and was kind of talking about this kind of generation of poverty, I suppose. How it's kind of hard for 20-somethings, even then in 2005, to get a leg up in the industry, or in life in general. But I did that comic for a year and only managed to adapt like the first bit of it, so I got to get back to that. And I've got a novel I'm writing called Ragland, which is a surreal piece about the end of the world, and I've got to get back to that. But anyway, I was doing a lot of art around that time. But yeah, I started getting into ponies. I just wanted to draw the things, And it wasn't a style that came naturally to me, which I think turned out to be a boon. I normally have a very realistic style, and I've drawn pony stuff which is actually realistic, which is silly. I spent I did a piece. I did two human pony paintings, actual paintings on big acrylic boards, and I spent 9 days on the one of human Fluttershy and human Rainbow Dash. Spent 9 days making this really perfect, realistic human ponies. But the actual simple art style, that kind of Flash-esque, not flashy, but, Flash, the program, didn't come naturally to me. But I had done, like I said, these coloring books, which were basically traced from screen grabs, like low-quality screen grabs, and I would just draw over them and then improve and actually draw in the details that you couldn't see on such a bad quality printout. And that taught me a lot, and I must have drawn like 100 ponies before I ever drew my own thing. And so my style it's show accurate, and I draw traditionally. I do have a tablet now. Mr. Calpain, Mr. Charles Bunce, from Equestria Daily, last year they were having the December, artists thing, and he was giving away tablets, and he decided to give me one, even though I didn't win anything, because there's so many amazing pony artists out there that I don't even. It's like Homestuck. I don't even try to compete anymore. I just draw what I do when I do it, because there's so many people out there doing great work. But he gave me a tablet because he knew I didn't have one and needed one. And only very recently did I actually get a decent computer so I could work with a tablet and do real paintings. And some of the first stuff I did was I did Lauren Faust's character fighting Discord, and Twilight fighting a huge red fiery bull from like The Last Unicorn, like these kind of quasi-epic things. And I did one that was Lauren Faust and John Delancey and Tara Strong as humans. And I've been painting dogs lately, just doing what I used to do with actual paint, but now I'm doing it digitally, and it's a lot easier. I'll admit it, it's a lot easier. But I drew some pugs, and I just did some dogs from my friend Sequel, who helped me out a lot. Like, I gotta say, with this fandom, I had a lot of trouble with the Doctor Who fandom, because I was trying to do this huge project to animate the lost episodes of Doctor Who, right? And I couldn't get a lot of help. Now, we finished a couple episodes, which we haven't gotten to release for reasons, but we did a few things, like Evil the Dalek 7 we did a version of, which nobody's seen. But I couldn't really get a big team together, and I've said about this fandom, it's a very active fandom. It's a new fandom. It's excited. People really work hard and do cool stuff. If we had 108 lost episodes of My Little Pony, well, it's 106 now. If we had 106 lost episodes of My Little Pony like we do with Doctor Who, they'd be animated by now. People would have animated like 15 of them by now, because that's what this fandom's about. It's a can-do kind of fandom, and I like that. The Doctor Who fandom it's an older fandom, and it's a bit set in its ways. And it was kind of hard to break through that apathy. But, and I'm still, the artwork still exists, and we're going to do some more episodes one of these days. it's one of those things like I've got a lot of kind of big projects that I've taken on that there's a lot of projects that I'm just kind of sitting on right now to say, well, I'll do something with that eventually. Like The Chosen Ones is this huge, epic comic or animated series, and I wish I was Andrew Hussey, who does Homestuck. He just works and works and works and works on one thing, which is one amazing, absolutely amazing piece of writing, and people follow him. So I do want that kind of fan base for my own stuff. That would be nice, because I consider myself more a writer than an artist anyway. But I directed a She-Hulk feature film, a comic book film, back in 2007, 2008, and there's a lot of scenes from that which I never finished and released. So there's a lot, and I've got a novel, and I've got a lot of stuff which I need to get back to eventually. But at the moment, I'm drawing a lot of ponies and working on The Thief and stuff. But it's I'm very much a traditional artist. I do stuff with the tablet a lot more these days, and it's really helped out on The Thief and the Cobbler and this and that. But I normally draw on sheets of paper. I use a mechanical pencil. I use a Copic drawing pen, a 2-point Copic drawing pen, and just draw the regular way on sheets of paper. And then most of my pony stuff, the reason I did a coloring book was because that's what my work looked like. If I drew a pony on a sheet of paper, it'd just be black lines on white, and that looks like a coloring book. So I thought I'd embrace the difficulties with my style. But then I realized that people would vector them for me. People would color them and make them look perfect. I'm a terrible vector artist. I've done a few of my own stuff, a few of my own pieces as vectors, and they're terrible. They're auto-traced and they're a mess. But I was able to work with a lot of people like, Dentist is my main guy, but Firestorm Can and tons of, I'm not going to start listing names because tons of people who do amazing work and make my drawings look perfect in color. And so that's a great fandom when you can actually, it saves me work because I never have enough time and I need help. And I need people to help me out on these huge things. Like, I've got a couple people helping me out on The Thief and the Cobbler right now. And, I'm a guy who, I dream big, and I do a lot of interesting stuff. And I bite off more than one human being can chew, and I like it that way, because I don't want to achieve something small, I want to achieve something big and important, and I think we get there. We do get there eventually. But the pony fandom has been very helpful, and attending BronyCon. When I did BronyCon, and I talked to Pixel Kitties about this, because when we started out, right, going to conventions, we were just people who drew stuff and didn't know from conventions or what, and we were so naive at first. It was like, oh, I guess I should actually put some stuff out to sell. Maybe someone might buy something? Probably not. Who cares? So it was the first, couple BronyCons you go to, I was not prepared at all. Like, when I went to the September BronyCon, there was an empty table, and I put my stuff there as a joke. I didn't even sit there. I didn't do anything. I just put it there because there was the space, and I had some artwork, but I didn't actually do anything with it. And January BronyCon, I didn't come prepared with anything apart from my actual original artwork. And, it was Purple Tinker. Now, there's been a lot of drama since then. I'm not really talking to Purple Tinker then, but she set me up. She was like, no, you have to sell stuff. Here's this, here's that, here's some prints, do it. And put me up on the artist panel. And I did the artist panel with Ego and John Hoseka, who I love too, and Ego. And I mean, everyone loves these people because they're amazing people and they do amazing work all the time.
We had actually Egophiliac on the show about a month ago, a month and a half, I guess now, and she was just a fantastic person. She was so kind. She's very shy. I'm not sure if you encountered that.
Oh,
while you were on
definitely.
stage at the panel with her. But
She wouldn't even do the panel the next time. Ego's very shy, and so is Chibi Jenhen, who is one of our local New Yorker folks. But she's very shy. But these people do terrific work, and they're not, like.
That's true. That's true. They're all very nice people, and they're very enjoyable to get along with.
Yeah, and so that's the thing about this fandom. There aren't a lot of bad apples, and I think people blow things out of proportion. I think certain people have agendas and blow things out of proportion on purpose, but for the most part, we're a terrific fandom.
Well, I mean, it's the internet. There's going to be drama, and I think especially in a fandom that's based centrally on the internet, you're going to encounter that a lot. But it's definitely come out with things that have come out so much more positively and have drowned out that kind of drama that's appeared. Like you were saying, the amount of collaborations, the opportunity to work with other people, the encouragement and the enthusiasm to work together within the fandom is just incredible. And it's something that's not done in a lot of other fandoms.
Definitely.
I mean, look at the stuff people are achieving, full episodes, picture perfect pony, all these amazing, Ask the Crusaders, Double Rainboom, all these amazing animations, Mr. Ponyator, and all these, these draw friends that are 80 images long or whatever. And, it's all good stuff. And so if it's a fandom who are doing amazing things constantly. So, I mean, considering how stupid and racist and nasty and ignorant the internet culture is these days, I mean, look at any YouTube thread. What this community has achieved is terrific. So, God bless. I'm kind of the moderator of my own little fandom, the Thief and the Cobbler fandom, as it were. But it's all fandoms are problematic to an extent, and I'm very, very impressed by this one. It's one of the few fandoms I follow. I follow Homestuck a little bit for the fan art, but the Doctor Who fandom is mostly just squeeing.
I mean, to be fair, there's a fair amount here, but again, it gets drowned out by a lot of these different things. So I wanted to actually back up for a second because you mentioned a couple of acrylic drawings that you did, and I just wanted to, acrylic paintings. And I just wanted to feature these because these are absolutely beautiful, and it's something that we shouldn't skim over. We should actually go quite in depth about. The first one is a piece called Cannot Express My Delight, and it's where you did an acrylic painting of, again, human Rainbow Dash, or someone cosplaying Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. And the same for Equestrian Girls, which were the two Earth ponies. Yeah. So do you want to just talk a little bit about those pieces? Because those are absolutely fantastic, and the amount of detail is just astonishing.
Well, thank you so much. I was never a very good painter, is the thing. And it was, I just remember back in L.A., I had a rough time with the people in Los Angeles, I must say. I'm from Connecticut. I'm living in Connecticut now, and my mindset was never really simpatico with what they were doing. But, I'd try to be painting these cute scenes of me as a kid with my sister and our dog, and try to paint something really cute and sweet and beautiful, and they would I'd make a pretty amateurish painting, and they would just be laughing at me for the subtext of it, because they wanted something dark and scary. But I think the point of art is beauty. I think that if I'm trying to express myself, express some sort of anger, I will do it in a screenplay. I'll do it in a novel. I just want a painting to look beautiful, but I never really cracked what it meant to paint something until I switched to grayscale. Because that simplified things. Because actually mixing colors is difficult, and even
color theory is such a huge part of art. We've talked about it all the time on our show. The choices that you make, even things that still appear in grayscale, but are so much more complicated, such as lighting and shading and all these different things. Color is almost 50% of a piece sometimes in terms of how complicated it is.
Well, when they make a Disney movie, they literally do a color script that is all just paintings that are just simple and are just intended to show what color every shot's going to be. And I'm not that great with color theory. I've got a certain eye for it. There's this website called Adobe Cooler. I think it's Kuler or something like that, which gives you color palettes, and I use that once or twice. But I'm pretty literal with what I draw. I like to think I can draw anything, but it'll probably look realistic. It'll look like how it's supposed to look. And what happened was a girl I knew in high school was getting married, and she gave me $300 and said, "Can you paint Albert Einstein?"
This sounds like the start of an amazing story.
I wasn't sure if I could. And, well, it's not the most amazing story, because the ending is, yes, I did. But no, I wasn't sure if I could pull that off, a realistic painting of Albert Einstein, because all my previous paintings, like from 2005 or whatever, had been kind of amateurish, but they'd also been in color. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this right. And I only bought black and white were the only colors I bought then. I bought gray since, but I literally just bought black and white. And I said, I'm going to simplify this as much as I can for myself. And after I'd done, I spent like 3 days on this painting. And at first I was just painting on the kitchen table and just trying to make it work. And I'd measured it out, and I'd gotten the proportions of Albert Einstein just perfect in like a pencil sketch so that it would hopefully be right when I painted it. I measured the whole thing out, and over a couple of days I was just painting and refining and refining. But what I realized was, by the time I was doing Cannot Express My Delight, which took 9 days, I think Equestria Girls probably took 5 or 7 days, and Einstein took like 3 days. But by the end, I was going into Photoshop, right? And looking at my reference photo very carefully on the computer and using Photoshop to sort of, you can reduce a photo to just 12 different shades. You can magic wand a particular color. What I needed to know was to not trust my eyes completely. It was mostly, by eye, but I wanted to know if this part of the frame is one color, what other parts of the frame are that same gray. It simplified things for sure. Now, I say simplified, it took 9 days and was a lot of work, but I'm doing the same thing now with tablet. Like, I just did I'll have to send you this because it's not up yet, but a painting of some dogs for my friend's sequel. When I needed to do BronyCon June, the one at the end of June, sequel, C-Quel, he bought a printer, like a high-end printer, and printed out stuff at really high quality. Like he studied it, and he did the work, and he figured out how to print stuff that looked really nice. So I had these posters at BronyCon that looked really nice, and then Purple Tinker learned how to do the same thing, and we had a lot of stuff there, and looked really nice. And eventually all Sequel asked in return, because his family's beloved dog died the day of one of the days of BronyCon, Saturday I think, and he was just distraught, of course, and he wanted me to paint his dogs. I finally, after many months, painted these dogs for Sequel, and it took me about it took me 2 nights. And I wanted to do more work on it, but I think I'm not going to. But to paint these realistic dogs, now that's much easier. When you're just painting without paint, you don't have to deal with a lot of the same kind of crap. Like physical media of paint it's acrylic anyway, because it dries so fast, is difficult. So yeah, I'm liking the tablet for painting to an extent, because you can use you just draw, and you can use all your digital trickery. But as far as, I don't like my tablet as much as I like a pencil, but I like it more than a paintbrush.
Oh yeah, no, something that we haven't touched on the show and is actually really important that I need to get to in one of these future episodes is the concept of value. And value is is something that a lot of artists struggle with. It's something that I personally struggle with. And I've actually been talking with another artist by the name of Cosmic Unicorn, and she did a critique on one of my pieces and strictly about the value in it, and it was wonderful. And value is black and white. It's the value of like what you're talking about, like a picture in its most simplest form of just grayscale. And
sure,
to take a picture that you were trying to recreate in color and then grayscaling it, like that is one of the most useful things and probably the thing you should do when trying to find out the proper values. And we're definitely going to get that into a future episode.
Well, Cosmic Unicorn is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, the human eye is what you rely on for everything. But the human eye can also trick you.
Oh, yeah.
So what I gotta say is check your work. This is the digital age. You know, there are things you can do to check your work. If I've drawn something I don't like, I'll scan it in and see if the proportions are wrong. If I'm painting something, I will, so I've done this, I think, on almost every painting I've done. At some point, I've opened up Photoshop, taken out my original photo, and reduced that photo down to just a few values. And it becomes really clear at that point what the relative value is, because our eyes are very much trained to adapt to changing light. So while your eye is great for seeing what something looks like and what you actually need to paint, how the values relate to the rest of the image is very hard to figure out with just your eye, and that can be crucial in terms of, because if you get that wrong, it's going to be wrong, and you're not going to be sure why, because that'll lead you down a kind of garden path. And I've actually done like painted roughs. I stopped painting after a while because it was really hard to justify the effort, I guess. But I still will if people want a painting. I'm happy to do it. But
many different things that you can do for sure.
I don't think people really study the fundamentals enough. I think that people watch anime and they learn bad habits. I think that if you're just drawing ponies and you're just learning from ponies, you're going to learn bad habits. You got to look at people. My big thing, what made all the difference in the world, because I was always a pretty good artist. I mean, even when I was I want to say 14, I could draw the Animaniacs and make it look like the show. But you're kind of copying, which means my work up until for some years was always like, sometimes it would be great and sometimes it wouldn't be. And that was entirely because the fundamentals weren't there. Because if I had really good reference for something and really knew what I was doing, it would look amazing. But when I didn't, it wouldn't. And I think that's still the problem with my artwork is if there is one, is wanting to deal with more fundamentals and not copy life so much. I can draw something realistic, but actually drawing a circle. I think a lot of people learn how to draw something really complicated, but don't know how to draw a circle. And the one thing about ponies is it teaches you how to draw a circle. It's like Mickey Mouse. There's a simplicity to the construction. It's all about pleasing curves. As long as you have really cute, pleasing curves in your drawing, it's going to look good. And Egophiliac, she can do really complicated stuff, but she usually is drawing simple curves. And
adorable curves, I like to call them.
Adorable curves, indeed. So what you have to do is, I think she said this on her Tumblr, that she likes to draw stuff quickly, and because if you need to look at the big picture, not just details, because if you're drawing something quickly, a lot of times that has a real force to the curves, to the line of it, which you won't be able to replicate if you're just worried about details. You want the whole thing to have a thrust, a force, and energy. So I scribble when I'm drawing a pony. Like there's a Twilighticious that I did, which has become a little well-known. I was drawing John Joseco's version of Twilighticious, and it became an actual shirt you can buy and should at We Love Fine. But that was a scribble because I needed to differentiate her from John's pose, but I also needed it to have a real force and attitude. And what I drew was this incomprehensible scribble, but it was right. Now, ponies I found are pretty difficult. When I was drawing Discord for Discordlicious, that was easy because he's so detailed that it was really kind of in my wheelhouse. Like, I just remember drawing him, and I was like, oh, that's actually accurate, and it was really quick. But ponies, there's so little going on with them. It's all simplicity that you have to be careful.
If
really
I
careful
can
about what
ask,
you're doing.
what about the Faustalicious one?
Well, I hear Lauren liked it. She sent her brother over to talk to me, and she said she liked it. But it's about attitude. I like doing that stuff. I just had one which was Fluttershy. It was like it was supposed to be. The original caption was, "Damn, it feels good to be a gangsta," and it's Fluttershy in a hoodie with bling, and she's sipping apple juice, and that just went on Reddit. I guess people were liking it, but I've also had the caption Flutterlicious, and I also had the caption Hug Life, instead of Thug Life. But
that was definitely a recent one that for some reason has kind of exploded recently.
Yeah, it's weird what goes viral.
I don't know what happened, but it's kind of like resurfaced.
Definitely. One of the reasons why I brought up Faustalicious, though, is the vector artist that actually vectored it was Zoo the Skunk, who's a Vector Club moderator. He's a good friend of ours.
Oh, yeah. No, Zoo was great. Yeah. Well, see, I work with a lot of great vector artists, and it's great to know that there's that kind of talent out there that you can just kind of pull to. My go-to guy has been Dentist, because even though he can be slow, but he really understands my style, I think, on just a great level. And no, Zoo the Skunk did terrific. But I've worked with so many great vector artists; it's ridiculous.
There are endless reserves of talent within the pony
It's
fandom.
crazy.
And unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you off here because we're going to hit time soon. So I'd like to give you an opportunity now just to have a couple of things, perhaps just like 2 or 3 plugs that you have, perhaps check your DeviantArt, Tumblr, Twitter, etc. like that. So if you don't mind, then you can just feel free to shout them out, and I'll try to include them in the video.
Well, sure. Well, my DeviantArt is Tygerbug with a Y, Tygerbug. So Tygerbug at deviantart.com. I'm also Tygerbug at Tumblr, and I'm Tygerbug Garrett at Twitter. My YouTube channels are OCP Movie, and you can watch my She-Hulk movie shamelessly, as well as the Ghostbusted trilogy and God's Los Angeles on that. And I also have a YouTube channel called orangecow.org, where I do ridiculous dramatic readings of pony stuff. And The Thief and the Cobbler is at YouTube The Thief Archive. And I also have a rare Monty Python channel called Monty Pythonette. That should cover it.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you for coming on. You've brought up some fantastic topics for people to discuss in their spare time, and we learned quite a bit today. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So now we're actually going to just head in here ourselves and plug our own stuff, because this is our show, so we get to do that. And because it's me and Bern today, that means that we get to be super serious, and we get to do it the right way, as opposed to last week. As opposed to last week's disaster. So let me this week demonstrate how it should be done. So we have a DeviantArt page. That's cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. That's where you can go and check out all the art that's been featured on the show today. We have a favorites folder. You can go check that out for each episode and follow along, or grab the pictures if you want them. We also have an email. Apologies. That's cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. That's where you can go send us in questions, art recommendations, a lot of different things like that. That's the best place to contact us, because that's where we check most often. And there you go. We also have a Twitter and a Facebook. Twitter is @cutieartcrusade, and Facebook is facebook.com/cutieartcrusaders. Follow us there if you'd like some updates, depending on where you'd like it. And that's it.
Right.
2 minutes, right?
Also,
2 minutes flat?
feel free to comment on the YouTube video.
Burned. But yeah, so there we go. That's how it should be done in the future. Quick and easy. People want more information, they can go to those sites and check it out themselves. Burned, we also have a special episode coming up in just 2 episodes from now.
Oh yeah. On let's see, our cutoff for that is the 28th, correct?
Our cutoff is the 25th.
25th? Alright, so
Yes.
our cutoff for our special episode is the 25th, and that is our super awesome fan art episode. Fan art that people have made of our show, and that we're going to be including everyone who sends us anything in on. So no matter what you send us in, almost. We're definitely going to feature it on that show, and it's going to be awesome. And so many people send us in awesome stuff, and it's going to be probably, I'd go as far to say it's going to be one of our best episodes.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you have, I guess when this airs, you have 1 week left, so send it in by the 25th, and hopefully we can feature your art on the show. And this is also, this episode, I'll be talking about this more during the fan art episode, but this episode has definitely inspired us to get you guys, the viewers and the fans of the show, more involved within the show, because we have some fantastic artists out there in the community, and a lot of people who are learning, and we'd love to feature them.
Definitely.
All right, well, I think that's everything this week. Thank you again, Garrett, for coming on the show. You were fantastic. And I suppose that's everything. Next week is very special. We're having a holiday episode, so we're trying to organize some things for that. But hopefully we can get some great holiday pieces, have a fun time there, talking about Christmas, Hanukkah, and all the other jazz that's going on this holiday season. And I hope you guys can join us. I know we are premiering on Christmas Day, which is a bit weird, but hopefully we can get something organized, and hopefully you'll join us, whether it's that day or later on YouTube. So thank you guys for watching, whether it's on the live stream or it's on YouTube. We love you, no matter what. And other than that, my name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burned01.
And we'll see you next week.
Hello, and welcome to the 5th spoiler cast for the Cutie Art Crusaders. Today we'll be spoiler casting episode 7, Wonderbolt's Academy, and I am joined by my lovely co-hosts, Rainbow Plasma and Pinky Dash.
It's me. I find it funny that only one of us was actually in the episode.
Yeah.
What?
Unfortunately.
Oh, me. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The Cutie Art Crusaders episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was me, Burned, and Garrett Gilchrist.
Yeah.
That was an episode. And today is obviously the day after the Saturday, so that we can talk about the episode. And so we've got everyone here. You didn't introduce yourself, Flutter Guy.
Oh,
you're
I am
Flutter Guy
Flutter Guy.
317, as if people haven't known, because this is what, like the 25th episode we've done this?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. In case people don't know your voice already.
And the giggle.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to point out that we just started this spoiler cast about mid-sentence. We were talking about something, and then Flutter Guy just did the intro. So this is on the fly.
Hey!
So this episode was the Wonderbolt's Academy, and I'm going to do the episode recap because you did it last week. So in this episode, Rainbow Dash applies for and gets into the Wonderbolt's Academy, which I guess is...
Well, she doesn't actually apply for it in this episode. She applies for it like between this episode and the last.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Literal.
She gets in this episode.
Yeah.
Get in your face.
How about that Pinkie Pie?
Oh, yeah.
No, let me do the freaking episode summary first.
Oh, come on. This is like... all right, fine, do it.
Okay. So, she does not apply in this episode, but it was implicated that she applied for Wonderbolt's Academy, and then she got in, and she went there, and she met someone named Lightning Dust, who was basically like her, but from like season 1. And then she went through a bunch of exercises, learned the value of working together as a team and not being a self-centric little bum. And other stuff happened. That was basically it. It's probably the worst summary I've ever done, but to be fair, you should have watched the episode anyways. So, yeah.
In other news, I am canon.
Yes.
You've been your name's been canon for ever since episode 4 of season 1.
Yeah,
Something like that, yeah.
but it's canon for season 3 again. Pinky Dash is real.
Re-canon.
All the snuggles.
All the snuggles. Plus
Episode
that attack cuddle at the start.
Sorry, I just want to. Episode 5 of season 1 was the Pinky Dash episode. So,
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you could rightfully call that a cuddle, considering how
It was an attack hug.
Yeah.
I could feel it. I really could.
A leap tackle.
It was wow, tight. you could just feel it through the screen. It's like, oh.
That's kind of how I imagine that Pinky Dash's hugs would be.
You are a very strong individual.
Yes.
So yeah, Pinkie Pie got worried about Rainbow Dash, and decided to send a care package.
And then
Well,
all the
before
pony. This is another good point that I've been making all season, that I feel like this season has emphasized more of like the 6 of them together, even if they're not like a focus. To just have like the 6 of them together, it's like, yeah, okay, they're friends. Like we finally see them hanging out together, as opposed to like the 2 times where they save the world. And I think that's really awesome. I don't know why I like seeing that. I can't explain why I like seeing that, but like even this episode. So obviously the main character in this episode was Rainbow Dash, and then you just have like the other 5 are just like there, not only supporting her but like getting involved in like the care package and everything. Whereas I feel like in previous seasons it would have been like Rainbow Dash, and then Pinkie Pie was worried, and then someone else like went with Pinkie Pie to go do the care package. It's not a big difference, but like I feel like it leaves out 3 other characters.
Yeah.
I like it when all 6 of them are shown together.
Yeah, it kind of brings them closer together. And I mean, the like, well, in season 1, the whole point was, friendship, magic of friendship. And that kind of continues on.
Yeah, I mean, we saw like individual friendships in like season 2. Like we saw like so many different varieties. Like we even had like at one point Rainbow Dash and Rarity were just like chilling together. During like whatever that Spike episode in season 2, and we saw like Rarity and Pinkie Pie were hanging out, and there's just like a bunch of different like friendships being shown there. But I still like seeing like all 6 of them together.
Yeah, definitely.
Was pretty cool.
Something that I noticed when Pinkie Pie was getting like really worried and was talking to the rest of the main 6 minus Rainbow Dash is they had a couple of new shots of Ponyville, like opposite of
Was it like the alleyway?
Yeah, the alleyway.
Yeah.
That kind of jumped out at me because there was in one of our episodes of Cutie Art Crusaders we featured, I think it was the sketching episode, we featured like a couple of kind of alleyway sketches, or where there was one alleyway sketch, and it kind of was reminiscent of that, which I thought was pretty cool.
I didn't really notice it that much.
I saw that. Also, in that scene, what was going on with their legs?
Oh, don't make a visual reference. I'm not going to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, go watch the episode again.
The legs were like everywhere. It's like there was a leg like sticking out of Twilight's head.
Now they're really gonna go watch that. They're gonna be like, how did I possibly miss that?
Like Applejack's nose was like huge. And,
no, he's lying. These are all lies.
Well,
so I wanted to bring something up while we're on that kind of like scene where they're like in the alleyway and whatever. I just like to point out that like Applejack had one of the best moments I've seen all this season, and I don't know why it's so funny to me, but when Pinkie Pie is freaking out over everything and going on this long rant, Applejack just gets this like face and looks right at the camera, and it's just kind of like the expression where it's like, "Do you see what I'm dealing with right now? Because that's what I have to deal with on a daily basis." It's such a funny face that she makes. She's just like, "Are you kidding me?"
It is one of the greatest faces I've seen Applejack make.
Yeah. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it's just like so perfect and just like stares right into the audience. It's like, yeah, this is what I have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the new character, Lightning Dust?
Lightning Dust, who I keep accidentally calling Lightning Dash.
I keep saying Lightning Blitz for some reason.
I think of Lightning Bolt.
I say Lightning Dash, but yeah, you're right. It's Rainbow Dash from season 1.
Yeah, okay. Well, we had a conversation before the spoiler cast started where I said that Lightning Dust was basically Rainbow Dash from the first season, which I think is like super accurate. That's just something that I kind of noticed during the episode, but they get along really well. They're very similar. It's just those like little cues, like the little differences where I feel like when Rainbow Dash is like talking to Lightning Dust, it's like she's looking at herself from like a couple years ago, and like it really goes to show you like how much she's changed. And I actually heard a complaint that people were saying like Rainbow Dash this episode was like way too friendly, way too like nice, and way too caring about other people. I was like, yeah, but that's the point. Like that's the character development. You've seen the difference. Like it changed from season 1 to now, and I think it was really cool to see like this character Lightning Dust. Like that's season 1 Rainbow Dash. I have a hard time disliking the character just because it's season 1 Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, I feel like this episode and last week's episode had major character development in it, and also like storyline development too.
I didn't think last week had character development. I thought it was just like a feel-good story.
Yeah, could be.
I guess That's hard to say because like technically this episode didn't have any character development, but I guess what you're trying to say is like it helped show the character development that's gone on.
It like exemplified how the characters have developed in the past, like over time.
Okay, yeah, no, I get what you mean now. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And they were both Rainbow Dash centric. So
I like the fact that they don't need to in these episodes anymore. They don't need to like blatantly put out a lesson anymore.
yeah.
Like they got through the lessons and they did it in season 1 and they did it in season 2 where they were like, here's the lessons. We're writing letters back to Celestia. And I feel like this season they kind of like have just like put that away. They had it once with Too Many Pinkie Pies, but they kind of like put that away and are going for like subtle lessons now.
Pinkie Pie is freaking out that she hasn't got a letter from Rainbow Dash yet. What about Celestia? She's been sitting there for 4 weeks. She's had nothing.
Well, I don't think these things go chronologically, but I'm sure Celestia is pretty busy. Whereas Pinkie Pie does nothing all day.
Maybe she's still in Saddle Arabia.
I think Celestia is outside of wherever their cake shop is. Jonah Doe's shop and checking the mailbox constantly. When's Twilight gonna mail me? Come on.
No, she's waiting for the cake to come in the mail.
Right.
More cake? More cake?
Do you want this cake?
I want it.
Oh, God.
So I guess. Well, that's like the main part of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it was just like a feel good episode, and it was nice. There wasn't anything insane. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Like I said, feel good episode.
I know. Rainbow Plasma, when you were when we were watching the episode again for a second time,
Hey, I was there too.
and you were there too, yeah. But you said something about the landing strip there.
No, that's Pinkie Dash.
Oh, that was Pinkie Dash. Sorry. Yeah, it kind of makes sense if you have like this course that's set up, or like a race course set up, and if you want non-Pegasus ponies to watch. But
Well, PD was just saying like, why is there a landing strip?
Yeah.
Like, were there like planes landing there? So
yeah,
I don't know. It was probably just there to like give some sort of mental symbolism for how Pegasus are kind of like planes. I don't know. Look, it was a cool setting.
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
I did want to bring this up actually because I remember because last week we talked about the writer was a new writer and she made an awesome episode.
Megan McCarthy?
And Corey Powell last week.
Yeah.
And this week, I don't remember her name, but it was the same writer who did Mysterious Mare-de-Well.
Yep. Meriwether Williams.
Yes. So I thought it was really interesting because I think, and this is controversial to say, but I think generally, like the majority view is that the Mare-de-Well episode was not very well received. And there are a number of reasons, and we're not going to go into it now, but I am also of that majority where I didn't really like that episode. But I thought this episode was really awesome. So I don't know if whether or not that's just the writer like doing what she does best and like, you know, this is a really good example of her writing, or whether or not she was like, oh my God, they really hated that episode last season. I better write a good Rainbow Dash one this season. Specifically like requesting like, please give me another Rainbow Dash one. Like I want to make up for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't really want to get into the Mare-de-Well thing. It's a whole giant discussion. People still are discussing that. It's been like a year later.
We don't have enough time for that.
Yeah,
we could take up an entire.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
This is a spoiler cast of horrible internet references. All right, well, a couple other things. Pinkie Dash, you love the fact that the Cloud Chaser is back.
I love the fact that Cloud Chaser and that Snowflake was in there too.
Yes.
You really like Cloud Chaser.
Yeah.
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 In case anyone doesn't know, Snowflake is the big pony with tiny wings.
The one who's on steroids.
Yes.
Yes, that one.
With the interesting metaphor for not taking steroids. Anyways, I'm not even going to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, one more thing that I wanted to bring up. I should make a list of these things before we start. But people were talking about Spitfire because Spitfire was in this episode, and I think that's really awesome.
Wait, Spitfire was in this episode?
Yes, Spitfire was in the episode, Pinkie Dash. I think they should start doing that more, where they take like characters that we already know and like put them in certain roles, as opposed to like making new characters all the time. Like having Lightning Dust there was cool because like you kind of had to have a new character, but like if they use the opportunity Like they need 5 extras for the Wonderbolt Academy. Why not use characters they already have? Cloud Chaser, Snowflake. Was it Raindrops is like a background pony?
Raindrops is there.
Raindrops is a background pony.
Yep.
And then Spitfire as the captain, as opposed to just like creating a new captain, like random person. It's kind of cool to have that like extra thing.
I don't know if I like how they portrayed Spitfire.
Okay, we can talk about that as well. What do you mean? Like, did you just think that like Spitfire is nicer?
Because in every other episode, she's been supportive of everyone. She's been nice. She's been, happy. But then she goes into this episode and she's the military commander. She's
okay,
all
fine.
drill
but
sergeant.
I read a counterpoint to that, which was that there's a difference between professional and public appearances.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know drill sergeants, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get what you mean, but I don't feel like Spitfire came off really badly in this episode. It was just like I didn't look back and be like, well, Spitfire, what a jerk. It was just like, yeah, it's just the character.
Yeah, I didn't think she was out of character at all. It was just, a different setting.
To be fair, has she really had enough character so far within the show?
well, she
She said like 2 lines.
was in the Hurricane Fluttershy episode.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and she was like, oh,
She was in the
good job.
season 1 ending.
Yep.
Yeah, there are many more characters with more development.
She was very happy that Rainbow Dash saved Soren's pie.
Was Spitfire one of the falling Wonderbolts when?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You think she'd be a little bit more grateful? It's like, as opposed to just like, it's like, hey, I remember you. You're the one who saved us, and then the gala, and then the Hurricane Fluttershy thing, and then I wonder if we see Spitfire again, if she's gonna be like, I don't know who you are. It's like, I took an entire academy with you. I've got rainbow freaking hair.
Yeah, Rainbow Dash is a pretty unique character, so I can't imagine she would forget her
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Can we also mention the conspicuous lack of Soren in this episode?
Mm.
A little bit disappointed, not gonna lie. A little bit disappointed.
Wasn't he at home with the kids?
Yeah, okay, sure. We'll go with that. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Satisfies me.
Thought
Good
it
enough. With Shooting Star and Ragtag.
Yep.
might. Yeah, them too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, with that obscure reference,
On that note.
that is a good time to end the episode.
Yep.
So, so we finished?
Once we do the outro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Why?
Oh, I'm just thinking that was pretty short.
It's-
17, 18 minutes.
It's pretty quick. It was Academy record.
Oh,
no, you little bum.
Pinky Dash.
They mentioned that like 5 times in the show.
I couldn't help myself.
It's the only thing I don't like about this episode is the fact that they mentioned that they broke Academy records about 5 times.
As soon as when you were saying that you hated that in the episode, I had to find out a way to work that in.
Oh man.
We have no ending now. We have no
that
ending.
was just too good. I'm sorry.
Yep, that's it. We're done.
Yep.
Let's play over.
All right.
All right.
On that note, I'm burned.
Oh my god. And I'm Garrett Gilchrist.
And I remember Plasma.
And this has been Brony Breakdown.
Yep.
All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.